and welcome to Tech Tips with Sold Out Media. Today, my guest is Marcus Bornals. He's an excellent friend of mine and also one of the best audio guys I've ever had the pleasure to work with. Welcome, Marcus.
Thank you.
So today, we're going to talk about audio, and in particular... Compression. So... when Marcus and I first started working together, we had some very different ideas about compression.
Indeed.
But I think we've come along to be on the same thought, and you're way better at it than I am now.
Well, now.
Now. So tell me, Marcus, what do you have to show us today?
So today we're going to go through the compressor and see some examples on how we implement the compression in different scenarios. So to begin with, we have 4 different things that we use to use when we use compression. Mm-hmm. So it is ratio, threshold, attack, and release. So the threshold is you lower it down to reach down to the audio that you want to compress. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to reduce the peaks, you lower it down until you reach the peaks. Mm-hmm. So if you play this little drum loop I have here, you can see that the level going into it is actually louder than the compressor. Mm-hmm. So if we take the input and lower it a bit so it doesn't clip. Mm-hmm.
And you can actually hear it clean up a little bit there.
Yeah. So, and then with the ratio right now is at 1:1. That means that 1 dB is going in and 1 dB is going out. So it won't compress anything. But we push it up to 2:1, around there. Mm-hmm. Then when 2 dB goes in, 1 goes out. So it's reducing 1 decibel. And then we pull the threshold down until we hit the compressor level that we want, and we see it here that the gain reduction is going down. And I used to, if I have the compressor on the same channel, we will discuss another method later. Mm-hmm. Then I used to go to around, not further than -6, but it's always a taste thing. Mm-hmm. And then we have this attack and release. So the attack is how fast the compressor should engage when it reaches the threshold level, and the release how long it would take to go back to the initial state. Mm-hmm. So to set the release, which is what I usually start with on drums, I pull the threshold quite down, mm-hmm. and you can hear that it's getting lower than level. Mm-hmm. So there is 2 methods you can get rid of it. Okay. So it's an even level. You can have it on auto gain. Then when I take off the compressor, it will be the exact same level as if it's on. Okay. But you have the compressed version mm-hmm. with it on. Mm-hmm. Or you can on analog gear and other plugins that doesn't have this auto, you can use the makeup gain or the output meter. Mm-hmm. And then we have this release, and I used to set it to so it sounds like it's moving to the tempo of the music.
Right.
So it feels like it's a musical tool more than just a squeezer. Exactly.
And I think that's something that a lot of people misunderstand.
Yeah.
They think that a compressor just takes the top end and the bottom end, it makes it nice and tight in the middle.
Yeah.
But it doesn't even do that.
No.
Right? If you do that, you'll end up having sound that is very like squished.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds digitized sometimes if you're using digital compressors especially.
Well, right now, if we take the threshold further down, now it's very unusable.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you go back up to like not have the gain reduction more than -6, mm-hmm. then it sounds natural.
Yeah, exactly. And nice even.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you guys can hear that through the channel, but the top end or the very tip of the hit of the drum if it doesn't have the compressor on, it almost has a sound in your ears.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This makes it sound so much smoother. So more than just thinking about it as a tool to keep your levels in check, think about it as a tool to actually sculpt your sound.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a very transient, heavy material, and transient, it's the first hit of every note or beat. That's a peak that you see up in the graph here. And if we want to have more attack in two different sentences, because the attack is how fast it goes to the compression.
Yeah.
But if you turn it up, then the attack of the hit gets louder because you doesn't compress the actual hit of the compression, but you compress everything after the hit.
Right.
So if we take it up a bit, now the hit of the snare drum is louder. You get more transients going through before the compression happens. And that's a very nice thing, especially on drums and transient heavy material.
No, that's excellent. So a lot of people, they struggle with the idea of the attack and the release. And maybe the drums, you can hear it, especially if your ear is listening for it.
Yeah.
But what about on an instrument, for example?
Well, if we have an instrument like a bass, pull up the compressor. This bass have a very thick tone.
Yeah.
The frequency are very thick. You can see you saw at the drums where this graph was very up and down very much.
Exactly.
This is very more like a sausage.
Right. You're actually seeing the notes hang off on the end there instead of just dropping out of existence.
Yeah. And bass notes needs more attack to get through. Otherwise you take away all the bass. If I should have put up a ratio, that's so it actually compresses, and take down the ratio. Now it would be quite squeezed because the attack is quite low. But if we take up the attack a bit and not go further than -6, we keep the tone and the quality of the bass of itself. And since it's also a very sustained note, we can have quite long release because we doesn't want it to chop every time the finger drops the string.
So it actually makes it sound more smooth to your ear.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And sustain is a good word because it actually is a lot like when you have a piano foot pedal. It's like a sustain to the bass.
Yeah, exactly. So if we go to the next thing.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend.
Vocals. Here we can hear that we have a lot of dynamics to work with to make this even. And so what we do right now we have a ratio of 4:1.
Right.
And this is quite an aggressive vocal as well. So I might leave it at 4:1, but if it was a much more even vocal with not so much dynamics, lows and highs, and everything, I would go for a more tamed ratio. And once again, we can use some more threshold to set the release. Something like that.
Right, and you definitely hear that doesn't pop through at the top anymore.
Then we go up to -6 again.
Nice and smooth.
I think it sounds quite natural.
And again, guys, if you think about your compressor more like an EQ than just something just to stop the sound from going too high or too low.
And also a shaper tool.
Exactly, right? Shape the sound. Don't think of it as just a tool just to keep things in between two levels.
No.
It does so much more.
Yeah. And then we have a voiceover right here.
Den gode herden. En psalm av David.
And in
Herren är min herde.
This is an example. Since it's a talking head, we want all the explosives to be tamed. That's why we have the attack almost at 0 and quite an aggressive, because this is very close to the mic,
right?
As well. So we could have a quite extreme ratio as well.
Den gode herden. En psalm av David.
To get rid of all those
Herren
explosives
är min
and stuff.
herde.
Right on, yeah.
Mig skall inget fattas. Han låter mig vila på gröna ängar.
And to make it more transparent, we can have a quite low release as well.
Den gode herden.
Something like that.
Yeah. So if we were gonna just make it super basic so you guys understand the components, the first thing that's coming in is your threshold, right?
Yeah.
First setting.
Yeah.
And that's where you want the effect to take place.
Exactly.
Right? Then the ratio is how much of that effect is happening. So 2-to-1 would be 1 decibel in, 2 decibels out.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas 6-to-1 is 6 in, 1 out. So much more aggressive.
Yeah.
Then your release, your attack is
How fast?
how fast the effect takes. And the release is how fast it lets go.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
There are some other things you can get more complicated in depth on the compressor, and there's a lot of tricks you can use with the compressor.
Yeah.
There's been times I've had signals that have come into the board that were way too low. There was nothing I could do about it. We were middle of a live concert. I threw it through the compressor and gained it up in the compressor. There are things you can do that they tell you not to do, but you can do with the compressor lots more.
Exactly.
So you have an extra tip for us, like a professional
like an
high-level
advanced
thought.
tip.
Yeah.
So it's something called sidechain. It's most used when you have a bass guitar and a kick drum that wants to take the same space in the spectrum, which they do usually. So we have a bass guitar and a kick drum, and I want the kick drum to get through in the low end every time it hits. So I want the bass guitars to get out of there when that's happened.
Right.
Then we use something called sidechain, and I have a compressor set on the channel that the bass guitar is at, and then I choose the kick drum channel, and then I just every time the kick hits, it reduces the level of the bass.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Can you turn it off and on so we can hear the difference? So that's off,
Now the bass guitar is very on.
right?
Now it's very reduced. And this has also effects where you set the attack and release. And so you can use it as something called like an envelope that you, how fast the effect will come and go, so to speak.
Oh, wow. That's an awesome trick. So you're literally using the drum to trigger when the effect hits the bass guitar. Sidechain. Marcus, thank you so much for your time with us today. We'll have you back for some other episodes.
Yes.
Thank you guys for watching. If you do have some questions for an expert like Marcus on audio, please leave them in the comments. We'd love to have him back to answer more questions. Thanks for coming today, bud.
Thank you.
And you guys like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.
See you.